Good evening. Today is Thursday, July 17th, and this is the Environmental Advisory Council. Call to order.
Cheryl O'Sullivan Feeney,
Present?
Cindy Mahalo,
Here.
Dave Galush here, and Janet Carmanis,
Here.
Joe Pinto, I am here. Moment of silence and then our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, item number 4, agenda. Item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Motion was made by Joe Pinto, seconded by Jana Carvandes to accept the agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stands. Awesome. All right. Item, public comment for agenda items only. Any public comment? Seeing none, great. We're going to move to the minutes. Consider approving the minutes from the June 19th.
Make a motion.
Motion was made by Joe Pinto, seconded by
Second by Dave Galush.
Dave Galush. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stands. Oh, we got a lot of jumpers to the motion tonight. Good stuff. All right, item number 7, land development review. Update on plans of 4605 Westchester Pike, the indoor recreation in Moorville. Dave, do you want to give us your thoughts before we kind of dig into it?
Let me open up the plans first, please.
Do you want us?
I know we have them here,
Yep.
but I'm gonna open them
Okay.
up on my own computer.
Do you want us to start when we're? Or do you
No,
want? Yeah, let's wait. for you.
Are they bringing them up?
Yes.
Good, okay, we can wait.
Tim, if you could bring up the land development plans. Good. And go to page 1 and 2 because we wanted the cover sheets, so that's there. Good. All right, this is 4605 Westchester Pike. And this is the property that we've seen. Actually, this is our 3rd time review of this. This was before us back in November, again in April, and now the revised plan.
You guys can start.
Sure. All right.
I have my notes that I was gonna read, but I can't open them right now, so I will go as soon as I get them up.
Okay.
But you guys go.
I'm going to just make some comments on the landscape plan. We have made some recommendations about avoiding non-native species and also including trees that had great habitat value. And I noticed that the plan still has 6 East Asian cherry, 6 Coosa dogwood. And we're recommending that they replace those with native trees such as redbud. And then also the plan calls for 4 tulip poplars, and we had recommended that those be replaced with white oak, which host hundreds of native pollinators, whereas tulip poplar hosts a far fewer number. So I'd like to include those suggested changes to improve the habitat value of the planting.
Awesome. All right, and we did review this for our April 17th letter, and so Cindy and I did look briefly at this today, just to make some adjustments to our comment letter. The first item we don't need to now have the bike rack statement that we had on our previous comment letter, because thank you to the developer, they've added the bike racks. Item number 1.A7 on our comment letter from April. We were concerned about the concrete jungle, especially due to the limited landscaping of this property, especially with the retaining wall. This particular property is 2.56 acres. That's 111,513 square feet. Roughly 61,425 square feet of this property will be concrete or pavement. So that's a great concern. And the property, the building itself is only 23,220 square feet. So we are concerned about that. We did ask that the area of disturbance is 3.1 acres. And in our April letter, we did ask for clarification, and we asked for the calculations to be based on the 2.56 acres for this particular property and questioning why the area of disturbance was more than the window pocket for this particular plan. And I have got a couple other things, but Steve, Dave, you want to jump in or you want me to just continue on?
My computer,
Okay, no worries.
I'm sorry.
No worries. We did note in our letter on item number 2, this is from the EAC comment letter in April. The applicant has removed the pervious surfaces that they previously had planned for this project, and they have removed that. One thing to note was, and it was really good for the EAC to bring this to their attention, an area of concern in this storm basin 100. We were concerned with them putting that in there because they were already in an infiltration area that was already saturated. They did further testing and they confirmed that. That's why they've removed the pervious material, and they're going to go to a detention basin in that area. The EAC is recommending, and I know our Eric will do a great job with the stormwater management. We just wanted to make sure that regular inspections of the stormwater operations and management plan are in effect, and that adequate funds are in there to supplement the township's expense for covering this. Item number 3 in our EAC comment letter from April, there was previously 79 parking spots, and in new plans, they're showing 81. And we had asked for them actually, if possible, to consider reducing the number of parking spots, especially because, Cindy, do you want to mention?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Steve, what part of the code provides the formula that determines the number of parking spots?
Well, it kind of depends on, I don't know that it's directly related to our code, because our code refers back to what the standard is for that type of building. And so it's not, our code doesn't necessarily spell out this for this and that for that, but it says what is the standard for the building that you're putting in? What is the intended expected number of spaces? And so, and it goes back to, my understanding is it goes back to like an industry standard for that type of building.
Yeah, no, I went to the US Pickleball site to see what their recommendation was for the number of parking spots. And I also looked at common practice for other municipalities, and it seemed like the range was a minimum of 1 parking spot per court to as many as 4 per court, 1 for each player. And I didn't see any support for how the applicant had arrived at that number. And I think it would be important to know how many courts are going to be in the building.
Mhm.
Have they shared that with the township?
I don't know that answer. I'm not aware of that being shared, but I mean, that doesn't mean it hasn't, like, there may have been a follow-up that's been shared.
In our October plans, when we received them, they did have scoped out the particular outdoor courts, but they never gave a quantifying number for indoor or outdoor, but that would be good to have. And I think to Cindy's point, all we're asking for is the number of 81 seems excessive, especially because the majority of this property is, as Cindy says, a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So the EAC specifically would ask them to consider reducing the number of parking spots, especially because of some other issues which we will go into further.
Yeah, I wasn't quite done. Or to provide the substantiation to the township on how they arrived at that number.
Right.
I looked up the standard dimensions of the regulation size of court and the adjacent area, which is 30 feet by 60 feet. So the width of the building is 90 feet by 255. So it seems like if you really crammed them in there, you could maybe get 3 30-foot courts across in a building that's 91 feet across. And you could you could have 2 rows of 60 by 60. That gets you up to 120 feet of the 255-foot building. And then it said, I'm assuming they're going to have showers. They said a fitness area, a reception area. So by my rough calculations, they could probably only put 6 courts in that building, which at 4 players per court is 24 players. And yet they're asking for 81 spots.
But they are proposing the outdoor
I know,
courts here.
I know, I hadn't gotten to that
Okay.
yet. So, and we don't know how many outdoor courts they're gonna have. So I just think it would be within the township's purview to ask how many courts they're planning on having to get some substantiation. And perhaps they could even, you know, reduce the number of parking spots.
Right. Another item that we talked about is the applicant is asking for a waiver to recommend, he's asking that there's extra trees that he feels that he cannot plant on this particular property. We feel for a number of reasons, not only for the heat island effect, but we are concerned about the noise that pickleball courts, indoor and outdoor, especially because some of these locations are open from 7 in the morning till 11 at night. So we don't know what the ordinance will call and what their hours of operation are, and I'm sure the supervisors will look into that. But we are encouraging them to plant all the trees on the property if necessary to help reduce not only the heat island effect, because the majority of the building is concrete and surrounding areas, but also to help reduce the sound. So maybe if they reduce some of those parking spots, they can find areas safely to put those trees that they feel that they cannot, the 11 additional trees that they cannot fit on their property. Cindy, what else did you have?
I've got some stuff. I'm
Awesome.
sorry, took me a while. Okay, so, again, the plan provides for right, it's the same as October, so.
The 50-foot riparian buffer.
Right.
We are
Is
still
that,
holding,
we're still holding to the 100, correct?
but we're of course letting
And
legal.
Dave, what was the substantiation for that? I know we had a rationale on why we thought the 100-foot should be.
The plan was resubmitted in April, which, and it was substantially different from what was submitted in October, hence application of the 100-foot reflecting the change of, the township ordinance.
And didn't the planning application also have a written note that no check had been submitted with that?
For the municipal
I believe
authority.
so, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cindy and, Sheila, you raised, impervious surface expansion, so you highlighted that already. Again, concerned about that. Let's see, you just highlighted the lack of tree replacements. Obviously, we would push, to, enforce the tree replacement as opposed to granting the waivers. And where were my points? And then, the native species as well, which Cindy brought up. I think we've been pretty, transparent on that, and there's a wealth of resources which we're happy to give. So, we'd like to see better, adherence to that guidance.
So it looks like a lot of our comments from April 17th still stand. We have some modifications that we will all vote on when we see the final product for tomorrow. One thing that we have new information, and Janet, I was hoping you could to speak to this. If you look at the plans, and Tim, could you pull up the actual structure plans? There's this, oh, it's actually, it's not in that, it's a separate item.
Yeah, it's called schematic or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like the 4th item down, if I recall. It should be.
It's the illustration of the outside of the building, I think is what you're looking for.
Yes,
That-
right. So, in our previous wing, and I'm hoping Janet, you could speak to this. Remember, this property is going to be slightly above the logistics center. And our concern, and we didn't find any of their comments addressing your concerns, because the bird and the wildlife will be coming up. That whole area that is all glass is a major concern for bird kill. So,
What do you
Janet,
want to say?
what did you want to say about that?
Well, from my research on webinars about bird-friendly glass, is that if it is applied at the time of construction, it adds very little to the cost of construction. But if it is applied later, it is much more expensive.
Right.
So we could ask them whether or not they have thought about bird-friendly, feather-friendly glass, and encourage them to use it.
Right. Also, in our April letter, we asked a concern about the lighting plans and all the information noted. We received no information about that, and that was a great concern. Boron did offer in their logistics center, even though they weren't required afterwards, they have agreed to do bird-friendly modifications for the window. So we would just hope that this particular applicant would maybe consider the possibility, and all we're doing is just suggesting.
And consult with them.
Yes.
Perhaps they haven't thought that.
Yes.
of That.
Well, that's what's great about it being in, but anything else that you have? We did talk about in our previous things, and we never really got a chance to it. We had asked for a wildlife study because this is classified as a wildlife corridor and the impact. And I guess it must have slipped out of our last April meeting, our EAC comment letter from April. Anybody have any input on the wildlife corridor and the impact?
And who was going to do the study?
We asked if
We
this
asked them.
applicant for the overall property, and they haven't given us any information for the overall property.
I don't know anything more about that.
Well, we could just add that. I
So
think,
I did have a couple of things.
Sure.
I came into the office and reviewed the large
awesome.
print copy. And something that stood out to me is they talked about compost filter socks.
Okay.
And then propylene, polypropylene
Yes.
socks, which are going to be left in place. So to me, that's plastic that's going to be left in place as a retainer. And is there not another option like jute that they could use rather than leaving plastic? Because we know that it becomes microplastic and.
Cindy, you have something in this, in our April letter regarding the use of plastic mesh and all that. Do you
Yeah,
have anything you could add to that?
it was in there and it was specifically in reference to erosion control matting.
Yes.
Right.
And what Janet seems to be mentioning is the erosion control sock,
Yes.
which usually Steve Arthos removed when construction is complete, or is that once the vegetation is stabilized?
It's usually once the vegetation is stabilized.
And I know that the township engineer, we're very grateful that he's reviewing all the plans, looking for the use of plastic-based mesh and asking the applicants to avoid that whenever possible. So we'll
Right.
make sure that.
I've
we-
seen a decrease around the town, it feels like, in the new
You
construction.
think so?
Yeah, I think so, at least.
That's
Okay.
good.
At least I've seen around the town.
That's awesome.
Do you see the
I
jute
feel like I'm seeing
instead,
it.
or
The what?
the jute? Do you see the jute or the natural fiber?
Yeah, I think it's natural fiber, yeah. Yeah,
that right?
as opposed to the green plastic mesh, yeah.
That's great.
At least in the places I've looked, so I'm happy about
Great.
that. I do have a question. Didn't we recommend, I can't recall from the plans and I'm trying to find it. Didn't we recommend the special glass for birds
Yes,
on this
we-
building?
yes,
Is that
yes, we did.
included in the new?
They
or
did
did
not.
they, okay, I just didn't know, okay.
Did
Okay.
agree to it, but they
Okay.
didn't have to. And
Yeah.
again, they're not required to.
I know, I was
Yes.
just wondering if
Yeah.
they,
We just
couldn't-
asked them to
okay.
consider it, but they, in their new plans, they don't have that specified.
Just couldn't-
I
So
think
I
one,
wondered if the lights are on timers, or if they dim the lights after a certain hour when people are no longer playing. Because,
Yeah.
lights that are on constantly interrupt not only birds, but moths,
Everything.
insects. Is there some kind of, we could include that the lights be on timer or lower the lumens?
well, we do have that in our comment letter. We can maybe adjust that to,
Okay.
here, do you want to look at what's worded in the comment letter from April, Janet, and see if you would like to make any
Well,
changes?
Well, our previous letter, which the language I thought we would carry over is that the lighting design should comply with the bird-friendly lighting design in the Newtown Township Lights Out Proclamation and the Dark Sky International Guidelines. And we're asking that the applicant install the bird-friendly glass to reduce bird collisions and fatalities.
Awesome.
We didn't specifically mention that a timer, we could mention that specifically, although I think it is captured under the broader. In the interest of keeping these letters shorter, sometimes I don't include all the
Everything, yeah.
details, and I just said can comply with the bird-friendly lighting design.
We can do that because I'm sure that's gonna, I'm sure the township's gonna have regulations on what time the courts can be open to and all that. But again, that's,
So you have two different issues. You have the land development plan.
yes,
That you're looking at tonight. When you start talking about lighting of the courts, that's the conditional use piece that currently has been put on hold. So until that part goes forward, I don't know that that will show up on this. So to just just so you're aware.
Why, Steve, why is the lighting under the conditional use?
The lighting is under the condition.
But why?
Because the land development plan is looking at the interior piece. It's not looking at the exterior piece at this time. So the land development plan is going to be looking at, I mean, you can look at the lighting like in the parking lot, but they won't be, they're not proposing courts at this time exteriorly, on the exterior side.
Okay, I still not getting that. When you say the land development plan only looks at the interior,
Well,
the,
I'm not saying that right. The land development plan is only focusing on the building, the parking lot, and the interior of the building, not what potentially could be exterior courts in the future. That's the conditional use piece.
okay, but the land development plan also has a lighting plan page and a landscape. plan.
That
So
part,
to me, that's the exterior.
that's true, and but I think that's just, if I recall correctly, and they may have done more than what I thought, but I think it's limited to the parking lot and the lights on the outside of the building. I want to make sure that when what you're thinking is that you're not thinking about the court lights. If you're thinking about the parking lights being limited to the time in which this place is open and maybe an hour afterwards, so employees, I think that's fine. I may have misunderstood what you were saying.
But
So
there's-
you're just saying it's too soon for us to comment on anything for that where we think we're
Outside
gonna put
courts.
outdoor courts, which is just kind of a big empty area on the plan right now.
Correct, because
So we will not address that. at this
I'm just saying that that's gonna come under the conditional use piece, the way it's set up in our ordinance. It's two separate pieces, and so I'm just trying to make sure that you're addressing what's gonna go before the land development side this time, and we'll address conditional use when they come back with that.
Well, wasn't the application, the first one we saw in November, wasn't that conditional use?
Yes,
That was, yes,
but that was for the issue too.
but they have
The
put
court
that,
plan.
they have parked that plan
Right.
and came back with this plan.
So then it really was a new plan, because the
Well,
plan was conditional use
the-
for outdoor courts.
Yeah, but, and that's a whole other different piece, you
Right.
know, I mean, I understand your arguments in regards that if it's a new plan and maybe it should be considered under the 100-foot buffer. Their argument is that the conditional use piece called for the development of enough of the development to say that it's consistent.
Well, I guess my question is, in their calculations, they show the 23,000 square feet for the building. They show the 31,949 square feet for the actual parking lot. And they show 25,823 square feet for the courts. In addition, there's another 3,653, which they refer to as concrete. So they already are over their calculations and then the amount of impervious surface that will be on this track. And that's by their own calculations on page 1.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm not saying don't
yeah,
address that part. That's totally land development.
Yeah.
What I was trying to make the comment, I misunderstood the comment about lighting to be pertaining to the court lighting, and that may be just what I misheard. If you're talking about just parking lot lighting, please address that. But what I wanted to make sure is that you understand that the court lighting and the time of the court lighting is all part of the conditional use hearing. That's separate.
But then also, shouldn't the number of parking spaces be less since that area?
I think that's a fair,
Hasn't been
recommendation.
approved Yet, it might.
I
not
think
get
that's,
approved.
I think that's a fair recommendation based on that. I think what they're looking at, though, my guess is, and just looking at the plan, if you can go back real quick to the plan, please, with the parking lot.
if you want to go to page 20, I think that's the
I
landscape
think you
plan.
want to be on the next one down.
It's the site plans dated June 30th.
The site plans.
Yeah, and it should be page 20 is, I think, the landscape plan.
Well, I want to really look at the parking lot for a
Okay.
minute.
So right up there is the calculations.
So, yeah, but I want to just go down to the parking lot real quick. If you could just take us down to, like, I think was page 4, 3. Thank you. So you've got a couple things that I think are happening on this building that are forcing the parking lot to be the way they are. I'm not saying they can't be changed. But my guess is the fire marshal is requiring this area down here for turning radius for the fire truck. So it's going to force this area here to be built out at this time in order to do that. And my guess is they're just putting all the parking in based on that. And I've noticed also that they have their trash enclosure all the way back here, which would require for the truck to come down. So with both of those, my guess is that's part of the requirement of, that's why they're having so much. Not saying they can't do something different. I'm just saying that's my guess why you're seeing that. But that doesn't mean that all of this has to be built to that level. You could potentially build less to that.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. So Sheila, you had talked about the impervious area and I know that there was a comment in that the applicant responded to, I think it was on page 1 about the zoning pervious and impervious coverage. And they did add that on page 1 of the plans. And Steve, I'm gonna put you on the spot for this. There are 2 tables, if you can,
Back to page 1.
very top left of page 1.
Yeah,
sheet
go back
1.
to page 1 and blow up the tables, please.
And my, well, maybe it's page 2. It's in the upper left corner. Thing, there.
I think it's right.
That's it. You could blow up that corner. Okay, so to me, this is a little confusing and misleading because first, the applicant talks about site data. And he's talking about just this little bit, whatever it is, a couple acres. And he gives all those calculations. But then right under that, he talks about the impervious area table, which is for the tract area. And Steve, I get kind of lost in the numbers here, but where I'm coming at is if you look at the Boron property, the site, which is, I guess, site, and this pickleball court, which is the site, they both have an incredibly high percentage of impervious coverage. And because the applicant has not submitted a complete lifestyle village plan and he's incrementalizing his way along bit by bit, it's hard to know, when it's all said and done, is he going to meet the requirements and the limitations for pervious and impervious surface? And right now he's kind of comparing apples with like half-baked oranges or something like that. And I'm, again,
I think that's the danger for the applicant in the way that the project is coming in. I mean, ideally on a lifestyle village, it comes in as one plan.
Right.
And you're reviewing it as one plan. The challenge that the applicant will have is that when he gets to a certain point,
Yes.
he may end up having a very large open space that he or she, I don't want to say, I mean, we're saying
Right,
he, but
Yeah,
but it could, I'm well aware that it's a family project and I don't know who's going to be
Yeah.
bringing it in. But they may be in a spot where they come back and say, well, and
we squandered all our impervious surface.
and
hit
and we
our
are 2
limits.
floodplains on this property,
Yeah.
from both Crum Creek and Reese's Run, so
Yeah.
that's a great concern.
Yeah,
and so I think that I think the applicant's taking a high risk
yes.
in doing so, that they may end up having an area that needs to be
Left green.
left green.
Yeah.
Meadow.
Well,
And,
and I
and
hope,
it,
Well, I mean,
and it
it's-
may be an ideal area that's left green and, but on our side, we would come back and say that's a positive, right? But
well, but as long as when that situation arises, the applicant doesn't come and complain
Yeah.
hardship.
Yeah, that
I
this
need
land-
this, I want this, as long as the.
that's
you know,
that's
this
the
is way it
danger.
treats it.
Look, if the applicant even came in, let's say the applicant had a full design for the entire piece, and they came in and they said, it says that we're only allowed this percentage of impervious, and they came in and they were 5% more. You know, what is the applicant's remedy for that? It's to go to the zoning hearing board.
Right.
And so hopefully our zoning hearing board would choose to support
Hopefully.
that. I mean, but that's the key.
So I guess our comment still stands then that we really want to see a comprehensive design that's integrated to the overall plan, and this hodgepodging is really not an appropriate way, especially because this particular plan, we're forgetting that there's a wall on the front and a wall at the top. So we're getting a lot of concrete surrounding this building because Boron has it. In addition to that, as we noted, the 2 floodplains, which has a 100-year floodplain already noted on the thing. So the areas that are down by a road are concerning. So I guess we have a lot of issues about this.
And then to this point, you know, I know the township's embarking on a new strategic plan and a comp plan. And these are aspirational. These are going to be the vision of what the town wants to look like. And the town has aspirations for a lifestyle village, which this is supposed to be. But again, if you step back and say, what is being created here? You've got 2 lots side by side that are like, I don't know, 85% parking lot and building. Side by side, big blocky buildings. You've got a logistics center, which was not something we ever considered would be in a lifestyle village. And now you've got this building, which they've tried to, if you could put the picture back there, which they've tried to make attractive, but it's this big blocky building surrounded by lots of parking space. Is this what we want?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be like a pedestrian friendly mixed use building. And to me, it just looks like big boxes with parking lots. So,
One thing I think we all should note, the EAC mentioned this in our April and in November, and also Eric did as well. They're using their calculations to their advantage when they're things. So in the top, they show the overall property size, which sometimes changes. Sometimes it's 50 acres and sometimes it's 55 acres. But this particular, even their impervious surface and everything should be down to the individual tract. So although they show that, they don't show the calculations based on the 2.56 acres, which they say this property is. But then it says there's 3 acres of disturbance. So I guess we just want clarity on that. And the other concern is if we have this overall 50 acres and these trees, remember, were removed from this property years ago. So they were never having to be replaced from the replacement value because they were removed 20 years ago. For an applicant to come in and say, we can't plant these 11 trees because we don't have space is kind of surprising. And so I think that was, again,
Yeah.
we're asking those things and not to, we also are concerned. We don't want the planting of the riparian buffers in both Boron's property and this one to get double counted again when they go for another application. And that's why we're saying this piecemeal is getting a little concerning.
They're gonna put a tree in the picture too.
Yes.
And my last
And-
comment is back to the conditional use plan development. And I had made this note that the use putting in outdoor courts requires a conditional use approval. That was general note number 16 on page 1. And it just seems out of order that why haven't they gotten the conditional use for that outdoor court before they're doing the land development plan here? Again, it seems out of order to me.
I think the quick answer to your question, and what I can't tell you is why they're not running them together. I mean, which would be the other option versus running them separately. But my understanding is when they came initially to do the conditional use, they had no intention of having a permanent structure put in at that moment.
Right.
And the township said, you are not going to be able to go in and put in temporary bathrooms and temporary this and temporary that without, I mean, we're just not gonna, we're not gonna allow porta pots to allow you to have
Thank you.
outdoor spaces.
Thank you.
And so, you know, I mean, that was just pretty simple, right? And
Right.
so they realized that in order to go forward with this project, they had to they had to come back at it a little different way. And I think so, the applicant had originally not wanted to build everything up front. And so he came back and said, well, if I can't do the outdoor stuff, I guess I'll have to come back in with the indoor stuff as my first starting spot.
Well, maybe
And I
that,
think that's maybe
we'll
why.
save that triangle piece for additional growth for this. Maybe could they incorporate that into this building? Because remember they have that triangle above this property? For, it is listed down as potential further use. And they said if this were to expand, that would be an opportunity for them. Could they bring that into this lease and that where there's your green space and it will allow?
Well, I mean,
That's where they
I am,
No, they're putting the courts right in front of the building up there. That's why they've got those right in front of the brick wall. And then the swale is there, so. Well, the good news is,
I would just like to, sorry, I'm just gonna put an end cap on the whole piecemeal thing. I think the concern, Steve, is maybe less about it happening on this property and more the precedent it sets moving forward. So if the project continues piecemeal and they end up in a hardship situation and they're granted permission, what does that tell the next 10 developers who come into Newtown?
well, I mean, and that's,
Then have the precedent of saying, well, look, all I have to do is, again, I'm not
Right.
saying that they'll purposely do that to exploit the system, but it does create the precedent. So I think that's why there's the concern on our side.
and
yeah,
because
I hear your concern. I think that there's nothing that says they have to do it the other way.
right,
I think they take the risk in that if the townships, committees and boards stay true to their ordinances as we go forward, I think they take the risk. If the township chooses to make a deal or whatever as it goes along, then I think that's the township's, that's the piece. And remember, if the zoning hearing board even does it, it doesn't mean that let's say the zoning hearing board does it and the board of supervisors were to say, oh, we don't want that. I mean, the board of supervisors has a right to to appeal even the zoning hearing board's decision. So, I mean, there are recourses that are available to the township, even if a decision's made that it's not.
I think the EAC is looking forward to getting the best possible outcome from the property. We recognize that it's private land, it has a right to be developed. We're just asking that every consideration be done for the environment, especially because of the nature of the wildlife corridor, the impact to the community, the amount of stormwater that we're all in. And if anyone's looked at the news in the last week, month, we saw Wheeling, West Virginia in June. We saw what happened in Texas. We saw what happened in Jersey last week in New York subway station. Stormwater is an issue and we're just trying to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't become a problem in Newtown Square. So a motion was made that we will draft a comment letter with the revised comments, highlighting all the areas of concern. And motion was made by Joe Pinto, seconded by, I got two, Jenna Carvanis. Cindy will draft this letter. All in favor of the comment letter going forward?
I,
Great, motion stands. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Item number 8, reports, 8.1 rain garden update, rain garden pollinator meetup walk on June 18th. Cindy, give us the lowdown.
Well, this was a joint effort between the EAC and Birdtown and Trails and Greenways, and the library supported as well. So it was really a very collaborative effort, and I'll share a little bit about it and then let Janet talk about other parts. We actually rebranded the rain gardens for this. I decided that people don't know what a rain garden is, but native plants and pollinators are very popular right now. So we called it a native plant pollinator walk, talk, and reception. And it was more than just gardens. It highlighted all the native plantings that the township has put in, from Gable Park, all the trees and shrubs there, to the trees and shrubs around Flanagan Center, and then the 2 rain gardens, and then we went up to the corporate park where Boron is putting in they're transitioning turf to a wildflower meadow, and they've actually cut down proactively the Bradford pear trees, which they're replacing with native trees. So it was a very strong story about the move towards native plants, and we got to talk about the importance of native plants and the connection with pollinators. And then we came back to the library where we had a very well-attended reception. People just lingered and lingered. And Janet talked about
And,
birds.
So at the reception, we served shade-grown coffee that we had purchased from Griffin Cafe, but also Media Bee has a shade-grown, bird-friendly coffee. So we were able to talk about that. And then we stressed the Smithsonian certification and talked about, somebody said, well, what is shade-grown coffee and why is it important? In that our birds really, we only borrow our birds for about 40 days before they make their way back down to live in Central America and even into South America, where the trees, they live in those trees and shrubs. So it's important that the native vegetation stay there. So that was an emphasis that we had, along with some great treats that we were able to serve.
It was a great event. And again, thank you to the Township Public Works also supported that effort. Yeah, so
They put
they
up
were
the awning
library. It was a
and-
great community effort and we're thrilled and we look forward to more of those walks whenever possible. And Cindy, Jenna, is there anything else you want to give on a Birdtown update?
Yes, so we had planned an in-person clutch on Monday, the 14th, which was terrible weather. So it became a Zoom. But Newtown Square is in the clutch with the same territory as Valley Forge Audubon chapter. So because we're all in this grouping together, and there are about 25 bird towns in this area here. By the way, we were one of the first bird towns to become a bird town. And in the process of changing from being an Audubon project of backyard habitat, now the Bird Town, Pennsylvania, is launching a new Bird Town recognition program, and it's going to be with the Bird Town logo. So people will be able to get the mini sign for their yards that say that they are helping with Bird Town for our birds. And the registration will be a $30 fee, which will then make the program self-sustaining. And there will be no fee for schools, places of worship, or environmental justice communities, which is excellent. And it will be, the signs will be delivered to the Valley Forge Audubon chapter. Pat Anastasi is from the Valley Forge Audubon is taking charge of that. So they'll be receiving 54 signs by the end of the week and plan to distribute them at the annual meeting on August the 3rd. So I will be there at that meeting and see how we can have a few signs here in Newtown Square. It'll be an online registration. There will not be anybody who comes out to check your yard to see if it's, but we have, research shows that when you put a sign in the yard, people notice it. It then is much more accepted what's going on
Right.
in your yard.
And
And
get a bird town, get one of the signs then for the rain gardens? If would be a free
Sure.
to municipal, that would be awesome. Would it be something we need to check with the supervisors? It's just the Bird Town logo thing in the garden.
See, in case it's not clear, the Bird Town program right now is at the municipal level. And this would be kind of a parallel initiative for individual properties for homeowners.
yes,
Or like an individual,
or a church.
a
just
church
like
or
the
a
last time we
library or a
were at-
public
Yeah,
building.
I guess I'm confused in
It's just a Bird
if
Town
the
sign.
focus is,
Yeah, I don't know that we need.
Okay.
yeah, that's why I'm having a moment, I don't know that the sign is such a big deal, but I thought what I was hearing was focus on residents and schools
It is.
Yeah.
and not necessarily government.
No,
Okay.
And
You're
so
right,
that's
you're
why
right.
I was hesitant.
All right, great.
yes.
All right, awesome. And Cindy, the rain gardens are looking fabulous right now. So if anyone has time to make sure you stop out there to see, they're beautiful. I stopped in there. I just saw 3 monarch butterflies. I saw tons of cabbage moths. Just an incredible, the bird, it was wonderful. All right, item number 8.3, annual American in Bloom National Advisors Visit Review. the American in Bloom advisors were in town. Janet met with them, Cindy met with them, I met with them, of course, the township, the Board of Supervisors did. They came in and they got a really chance to look at our town and give some really constructive information, assess what we're doing right, maybe gave some suggestions of things we can improve. And it was just a really good opportunity for growth. Cindy, you want to add anything? You did the pollinator gardens and others.
Yeah, it was actually very positive. I mean, the rain gardens were the first thing they saw. And to be honest, they were blown away. And they even said that, they're like, do you have any idea how good these gardens look? They said, most rain gardens suck.
Because people
To be
don't-
blunt, they
you
said,
gotta maintain it.
this is really unusual that they look these good. And in retrospect, I think maybe they were like surprised that we led off the whole visit with the rain gardens. And they said, you know, you really should get your township engineers out here to look at this, it was a very interesting thought. They said most times, and stormwater engineers are reluctant to specify rain gardens because they look so bad. A lot of them fail. They require like too much mulch and it gets too much organic stuff in the soil. But they said, you should get some engineers out here to see how good your rain gardens look, because maybe then they'll, you know, specify them more. So that was very encouraging.
And
to hear
actually,
that.
we did a variety of things that we toured the street tree program, which they were very impressed. They were thrilled to see it, especially community initiatives. We showed them some of the pictures of the event. The fact that we had the coffee and the tea with the neighbors mingling and an opportunity just for tree tenders who were there guiding people, in addition to opportunities where neighbors who may be suffering with cancer or illnesses, other neighbors got in and helped them out. So it was really a positive experience. We also talked about our Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition program, which they were delighted with. They were really impressed with some of the things, and I'm thrilled that this gives us an opportunity to assess what we're doing right, acknowledge the great things the township's doing, the supervisors are doing. A Newtown Square in Bloom, which is an incredible community-sponsored event. I mean,
They met with
organization.
Kathy Cavalier too, right?
Kathy
The
Cavalier, historical.
district.
And then the dinner afterwards was culminated, and it was a potluck dinner. It was a wonderful event. And it really gives you a chance to say, what are we doing right and what can we do to improve? And it was just a positive experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to add that they did come to the pollinator garden, which was weeds. And I know it's been cut down since, but we decided not to ignore the fact
Yes,
that we have this issue and we're trying to address it properly.
right.
So I arrived early, put up a whole tabling event
That was
at the
excellent.
pollinator garden. I wanted to see how we are addressing our neighbors, our residents with native plants, and all the issues around bird population. So they could see, you know, there's nothing better than a visual to help get your message across.
I think the key moment that we all heard was they were impressed how well all of our organizations, the EAC, the Newtown Square in Bloom, the Trails and Greenways, the historical, the supervisors, the
and-
township, all of us work together.
The
and we wanna-
collaboration.
Yeah.
That is the key
Yes.
difference to make anything happen. So, and although we have our individual tasks, that sometimes there might be some, you know, potential concerns or
Yeah.
conflicts, it's important that we work together for the common cause. And I think that was. the
I
key.
think one thing I would add to all that too is I just want to say they got to see us literally on our best day. And
Yes,
then they turned around and saw us on our worst day the next day. If you'll remember, the 2 days they were here and going around, the first day was absolutely a gorgeous day outside. And then we had that incredibly heavy rainstorm
Yes.
that took down many of our trees and
Yep.
things around town. And one of the comments that I think that one of the things that surprised them was how quickly, as a whole, our township came together, even in the midst of all of that, to be back up and operating in spite of the fact that we
Yeah.
had such a big storm the night before. And so,
we had
you know-
the one property who lost 3 trees and helped, all the neighbors came in and helped them out and helped clear the road and do all these things. And that's what they're a beautification program, but they really want to see community development, and that's our strength, so
Well,
let's keep
and
going.
even the night of the potluck dinner, we had to change the venue like 2 hours beforehand.
Yeah.
Because
Because the
place
venue,
lost
when
power.
you were there, you heard that.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
I think that, I think what happened, like you would never, like you would say, you never wanted that to happen while they were here, right?
It worked out.
And it may have a little bit of a negative impact, but I think the positive impact from it will be they really saw the community come together and see, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always amazed at our Public Works Department when we have that kind of an event that happens. I mean, by midnight that night, they had almost everything open back up, that everything they could was open back up for sure. But what wasn't was because Pico lines were down still in it, and they were
Yeah.
waiting for
Yeah.
Pico to de-energize the lines so they could go back and do it. That's pretty amazing when you think
Yeah.
about how big that
Yeah,
storm
credit, yeah.
was and what they were able to accomplish. And I think they saw all of that as just like, wow, I think it ended up being a positive, even though you could say it was probably, they saw us at our best and saw us at our worst.
But the good news is they saw us doing it together, and that's important. Item number 9, new business. Item 9.1, update discussion of possible action on the fall 2025 Fall Street program. Carol Wagner and I met, and we're kind of fleshing out the details for the Fall Street program. A couple things that and of course, Steve, we're gonna probably jump in with you because we're gonna need the township's assistance with communicating to the residents. We're gonna follow the same format as the cards. And then we'll do the individual flyers that I will go door to door to make sure every resident is aware of this. We're asking for Shade Tree to give us the recommendations on what tree. We did ask them to give slightly different ones from last year. And the reason being is we don't want just all white dogwoods. We wanted to have some Eastern red buds or some other combination, native whenever possible, but looking at the characteristics of salt and all the other particulars. So they will make that recommendation. We did also ask them to reconsider, and that's something they're going to have to decide, the number of trees available. The EAC was concerned because we would rather 50 or 60 trees of a smaller slightly caliber versus 40 super large ones, only being is we're really trying to help you get to the MS 4,000 tree. Thanks.
I think you don't want to base it on that
Okay.
because half the properties don't even fall into the MS4,
no,
so.
Sheila, I think the more compelling reason is that research shows that smaller caliber trees have a higher survival rate.
So,
That is-
I mean, I think that if that's the case, I think what the Shade Tree Commission was trying to do last year was have like a instant impact, like a view impact. But, whatever makes sense. I think that if Shade Tree agrees with your proposal, I don't think the township cares. We did based off of what the Shade Tree requested.
Okay, and so we met today and went through some of those things. We will do that with Flyer, and we'll have to meet with you to get those next steps. We'd love to get those letters out to the residents by August, early in August, so that we can get an answer back by middle of September or something is our drop dead date. She's gonna reach out to Rob to kind of get estimation on the price. And we're gonna have to check with our numbers because the EAC's budget was slightly reduced. So we have to see what was allocated for the street tree program because the shade tree doesn't have any dollars themselves, but it's all bundled under the EAC budget.
I think there's some confusion there. There's monies for the shade trees.
Oh, okay, they didn't think there was. We just wanted to know what our budget, so I will check with you on what's allocated for both things for them to make the determination. And Rob will be looking his contacts, what the trees will cost and all of that. So far, if that date into September, then if it goes out in August, we should have an idea by September. We're targeting Friday, November 7th as our prep day, which would be the day before the planting. And we're looking at Saturday, November 8th as the hopeful planting day. And again, that's still, Shade Tree still has to meet next week to confirm all of these things. And we're gonna make sure that we're on the same page as well. That date, if that holds true, we're trying to make sure we can get it in as early as November. So we're not so cold as we were last year. We did ask them to do a couple things differently. We asked them to try to simplify things and try to have the mulch bag and everything at each property so that we don't have to, we did a lot of extra work last year trying to keep with things, and we're working, keeping the lines of communication open. Carol and I will flush out all those details after she meets with Shade Tree. We'll have everything in writing and make sure all the committees are brought up to speed on that. So that is the idea. And I will keep you posted. We just want to know what the budget is, and that will be important.
If I could add a couple comments on that. I think this is a wonderful program, and I'm really pleased that the township did it last year and that they're doing it this year. Speaking for myself and a couple of the other women that were there that day, it was a long, exhausting day. It was physically exhausting. And I'm glad that Sheila is raising the discussion of simplifying things, doing something to, you know, there were just a number of little choices that made things longer and harder. And I know some of the homeowners weren't able, they were supposed to each plant their own tree. I'm not sure that was emphasized to them. We did a lot of labor. I cannot do that much labor again this year. And to that end, I think we need more volunteers
Yes.
to help with this. And coincidentally, I took a step towards that in that I was in Whole Foods today and spoke with the assistant store manager about them having this as their employee service project for Q4 of this year. If you remember, Whole Foods employees have helped with other activities. And I spoke with the young man who's one of the 3 assistant store managers, explained the situation. And he was very receptive. I have his contact information. So I'm hopeful that they might be able to help with this.
Good, awesome. All right, so we will keep you in the loop next month once we know more, and then we will have to take an action once we have an idea of what the figures will cost. But we'll probably be using all the monies that we have budgeted for the particular street trees will, you know, will be used for that. All right, item 9.2, update discussion on the August e-newsletter. The good news is, as you know, we have Mastardes, which is not only a green business leader, but he is a certified Pennsylvania horticulturist. So I asked him to do a guest article for our August. He's going to be encouraging residents to take a look at their property, maybe develop a fall planning things to encourage them to not only remove invasives, but incorporate more natives into their properties. And specifically, we asked them to encourage them to look at planting their own street tree, especially. So Steve will write that article, and it's really exciting. And of course, the township will be able to think, but it was a really good opportunity.
I have a question.
Sure.
Steve, is there any way that we can get analytics from the township website as to what articles are being clicked on, how many eyeballs are,
We could ask Linda, she's done that
is that
before us.
possible?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the analytics, I don't remember whether the analytics are down to every article. I know they're down to how many people open up the newsletter. I would have to look.
Yes, Linda has given me before. She's broken it down because we were asking last year she gave us some feedback, what was.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see like what topics people seem to be more interested in. That's just why I asked, but.
Okay.
Yeah, knowing which articles and topics are of more interest and get more readership would guide us as we brainstorm topics here to make sure we're providing information that is of use to the residents.
And sometimes it's just, like you said, it might be in the newsletter and they just look at the flyer, but they might not click on it. But again, we're doing what we need to do, sharing information about rain barrels. Topics.
I think that's the thing. I don't know if it actually says. that
Only
they-
when you click on it, she said.
Yeah, but it doesn't take it all the way down to the detail of each article. I don't know that.
Yeah. She said,
It would be great to know that.
if it's on Facebook and you click that link, then that is registered. But if you're looking at the overall every news, it's not individualized. So that's good. In addition, I will look to do an article on importance of repairing bunkers, what they are, why they are, and why we should be concerned about them. I think that'll be helpful, especially since repairing bunkers seems to be a topic of discussion. Anybody else have anything for August e-newsletter? Janet, do you want to think of something?
I'll try to think of something.
Awesome.
I have 2 things, which relate to what you just discussed. I just completed continuing education training from Penn State on what they call the a FISH protocol, FISH. First, I don't know, something of stream health, first indication of stream health.
yeah.
What this is it's a research-based program designed for the average homeowner who perhaps has a stream in their yard. And by taking this 90-minute training and using the app, which they give them, a homeowner is equipped and encouraged to monitor the health of the stream in their backyard on regular intervals.
Awesome.
And I think we have so many residents in Newtown Township, like Sheila, who
Yes.
basically have a stream in their backyard, or you could do any stream you live near. And it's really a way of equipping your average person with basic information that they can use to look at their stream and monitor change over time. So I think what I could do is an article about that, which would
Perfect.
supplement the riparian buffer perfectly.
Perfect.
And then I had a second idea, which I don't know if Steve could include this in his article, is I'm trying to think about what's happening in our residents' lives right now.
Mm.
And a lot of them are losing boxwoods to the boxwood blight. And I thought as a nurseryman, Steve might be able to make recommendations. I know I've spoken to people at different HOAs who are just like ripping out the boxwood because it's irreversible. So it would be great if Steve could make a recommendation to people and hopefully steer them towards deer-resistant native plants that could be used in a situation instead of boxwood. Hunters run, we're losing boxwoods.
Right.
And the other issue would be like ash trees. So many people have lost ash trees. And you know, what if he has a recommendation? Like if you had an ash tree in a particular place, is there some species in particular that he might recommend replacing that with? I don't know if you feel he's already written the article. You already
We
asked,
kind of-
or-
we spoke about what, we wanted to also let him kind of take some, directive control himself. And he knows what we're looking at.
Okay,
I think,
well then,
I love the idea of keeping him on. I would like 1 or 2 times a year because he's a wealth of knowledge. It's a local business. They're a green business leader. And if he's willing to share that, why it came up is when American Bloom Jobs were here, they mentioned not only how Stephen Stardy is recognized across in his field as being one of the top individuals, and especially because he shares that knowledge in his own industry and he writes articles for them. So we just said, well,
Wow.
why aren't we tapping into that talent here? So that's good. What we'll look is that'll be for August. Dave, I'm going to put you on September. I'm giving you August off because you're going to dig into this, but I thought it'd be great if you could look into the concept. This is really important from September going into our fall of leaves are not litter, and really making people understand that we've trained them, we've conditioned people that leaves are litter and they need to put them outside, be picked up by the machines. We've got to help make them aware of the fact that there's opportunity for them to mulch those leaves, leave them on site, let them decompose. I mean, there's so many things we can look at natural ways instead of just throwing them on the curb. So that's your task with that, and you will be phenomenal.
Got it.
So there's a number of graphics that I'll share with you
That'll be awesome.
about Leave the Leaves.
And
Please
do you
do.
want to, Jenna, if you want to feed off of his theme, because that way it'll be perfect for our September. But I don't know if any of you guys know about it, but in our August e-newsletter, we have 6 items. And one in particular, I am so delighted with. Ella Pinto, who is a superstar among all stars, is Joe's daughter. She is a young girl at 12, a 7th grader going into Paxton Hollow. And she's so passionate about sustainable. She wrote this article about how kids can be sustainable this summer. And I was just almost in tears. It was just so beautiful. And it's being shared tomorrow with the e-newsletter. And Joe, thank you so much for raising Ella. She's a star. But also, I love the fact that we got young kids speaking to other young kids. And we always are looking for opportunity. If there's someone else out there that wants to share that, we would love to highlight them. If it's from a kid's perspective and how we can do it. Also, we gave Kids Corner this year, this summer, to give kids an opportunity from Birdtown to play games. maybe understanding bird habitat and all that stuff. So that's really good stuff. So we have a great lineup for August and we're gonna, for July, and we're looking forward to August and September, and you're gonna be up for October, buddy, so start thinking. All right, so old business, anything old business trending, ladies? Nope. Awesome. Okay, items for our next agenda. Anything come to mind? And if not? No, anything for next month? Consider?
I have a possible, public education Bird Town event. There was just so much enthusiasm at the, walk and talk about birds and pollinators, and also when we were tabling at the Circle on the Sundown. I realize a lot of people like the Merlin app and are trying to use it, and we tell people about it. But I think a lot of people are just beginners and really are not tapping into its capabilities.
Okay.
So Janet and I were at a Purple Martin banding event down at Glen Mills, the old Glen Mills School, which is now the Clock Tower School, which was fascinating. We met great people. Anyhow, I met a gentleman there who I would like to bring out and do a presentation here. He's a very articulate, compelling young man. He lives in Philadelphia. He is very highly regarded. He is the co-chair of the Philadelphia chapter of the Bird Atlas, which is a 5-year initiative, which is repeated like every 15 years, where they study birds and whatever.
Awesome.
But anyhow, he has experience doing kind of not a walk and talk, but a talk and walk, where he would do a 45-minute presentation inside about Merlin and eBird, and people would bring their phones and he'd teach them how to use it, and he'd need a screen. And then he would take us out, take people outside and actually try to use the skills that they just had. And we raised this at the Clutch meeting on Monday, because we think a way to do this would be to collaborate with Bird Towns.
We have a mini clutch, which
Of
involves
just-
media, Nether
Providence.
Providence, Springfield. So we're all kind of clutched together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we floated the idea with them, and they said, yeah, they would be interested in like doing this jointly. So,
Definitely sounds like something to consider. You know what you could do? Make sure you put that in for our August consideration. And look, if we could make sure the supervisors are aware of it so that they could come as well and be aware.
And
Maybe
then we
look
can
for-
mention about the fall migration walk, bird
Right.
migration,
Um,
which we've already have committed
yeah,
from.
are you looking at September or October timeframe for that?
It's either the end of September or the very first part of
No, I
October.
meant for this,
Oh,
this idea, when would
oh,
you think?
later.
Oh, okay.
We've got I'm traveling a lot the
Okay.
next couple months.
Okay.
Too full.
Okay,
I-
so
I'm
it's
gonna-
in the fall.
I'm
in the
gonna
fall.
ask him, how late can we move it?
Okay, all right.
And I wanted to avoid any tree planting stuff.
Sure, awesome. Okay, so that's something definitely consider. You'll add that to the agenda items for us to note. All right, and then, any public comment on anything in particular? Awesome. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Would you like to get up and give public comment so we can give a shout out to you? You'll be in the record as forever.
Yeah, no, get up, tell us
Yeah,
how you
so you
heard
can tell
about
them
it.
that
and-
and
No,
please,
you have to
you
stand
have
there.
to
you don't
stand by
have
the
to do anything.
microphone.
If you'd like to, you're more than welcome. Well, you know what we'll do? We'll keep the camera off you because you're, we will let them hear your wonderful
No,
voice. And we'll
it's
just
helpful to us to
to
know
learn and
why people came, what they thought about it, how they heard about it. You'd be helping us.
thank you.
So push the button on the microphone.
And I just want to give your name and address for the record.
I think I'm on.
Yep.
Okay,
So we need your
my
and
name is
address.
Tim Higgins. I've been a resident of Newtown Township for 47 years. And I've been heavily involved with Ridley Creek State Park for their trails and their activities, they're there, but primarily their trails. And then I saw that there was a Trails and something commission here.
Trails and Greenways?
Yes.
Yes.
And so I thought I would try to find out about that, but then I thought, I saw this, so I would be here with this. I know John Custer from Friends Meeting, in Newtown. I guess really that's about it.
Great. So you went to the walk and what did you experience from that walk, the bird walk?
I was really impressed. I mean, being a resident for 47 years, I was surprised
Yes.
that all this was here. And I really was not aware of it. My children are middle-aged at this point, so it was a far different place, the whole recreation playground, softball fields, et cetera, et cetera. And I was impressed with the development there, especially with the rain gardens. And I saw them analogous to what I see in the city on the Schuylkill Trail. And they'll have a lot of rain gardens there and they're very similar.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you learned something new about your township, that you've been here for 47 years. And listen, we're
That's a
always.
little embarrassing, you know?
No, that's actually was great, because you were so busy raising those children. Now you have a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
Middle-aged.
No,
I can't miss
did
it.
you say your name again?
Higgins, Higgins.
Right. Your
Tim,
first
what was
name.
your address?
Oh, my first name, Tim.
Tim
Tim.
Higgins.
Tim, what was your
Um,
address?
Oh, 420 3rd Avenue.
Well, Tim, I'm glad to hear you say that because that was one of our intents with both the Gable Park Mini Arboretum and the rain gardens is to be public education tools. And I have felt that we have not done a good enough job of that, which is one of the reasons we had this meetup and why we were so delighted, because there are a lot of great things going on here and we want to get the word out. So
Great.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
We have so many things. And are you getting the township newsletter right now?
I think so,
The
online.
e-newsletter? Awesome. And if not, we can make sure we get your contact information to keep you in the loop for everything else.
Well, if
May
you
I
wanted
ask
to,
you what brought you here tonight?
well, Cindy's Walk, the rain garden's there. My involvement with the park, being right next door.
Awesome.
All those things combined, yeah.
We are always looking for
Come
help.
again.
Awesome. Feel free to. All right,
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Push the button to turn it off.
Yes,
Yes,
great. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. All right, EAC agenda items will be due on Sunday, August 10th to me by 8 AM, please. And we got lucky this month, the e-newsletter content articles will also be due Sunday, August 10th at AM. They're expected to be published on Friday, August 15th. And our next EAC meeting is on Thursday, August 21st. So we're going to have a great last bit of our summer and we look forward to everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you. Good night.